I can do this.
There you go.
All right. Hello, Dames. I'm Dawn Mallarney, president of the Madison Dames chapter, and I'm so excited. I have Erin Ogden joining me today. She has always been a true supporter of mine, and I love supporting her. She's always one that has really brought a smile to my face every time I see her and others in the room. So I'm so excited that she's coming to us today with a wealth of knowledge and experience. She's my go-to when it comes to businesses in the legal world. So welcome, Erin, and thank you so much for being my first Dream Fearlessly sponsor for my Dames June event.
It was my absolute pleasure, Dawn.
Oh, well, thank you. I couldn't have done the event without you and your support. So thank you so much. So she's my first sponsor. And so I'm so excited because I get to introduce her to the Dames and the virtual world. So Erin, how about you give a brief introduction about yourself?
Sure. So first thing that I always make sure Dames know is that I'm the president of the Dawn Mallarney fan club, but that we are definitely taking members, and I am happy to share that crown whenever possible. When I'm not doing those duties, I'm an attorney. I'm the managing attorney at a law firm, Ogden, Glazer and Schaefer. And we are a business law firm, which means that we help companies, and we help the companies that recognize that they have something special that makes them, they're not just, well, I'm just a company, right? They're named, every single one of them is a star, and they know what makes them special. And we want to figure out what that is and identify, and then figure out a way to protect it and monetize that. So things like trademarks, your brand, your processes, your employees, things that really, when you say what's your unique, selling position, like how do we make sure that that is protected and can use that to your advantage?
I say so many things that a lot of business owners, how do I say it, don't want to think about it maybe, or it's like,
they think about it in a different way, right? They think about, you think about it every day. What makes me special? I mean, your company's name, Unique Connector, right? You know what makes you connect, what makes you special, but you don't think, a lot of times what happens is companies forget that it's more than just something in their hearts, right? They're like, oh, wait, that's an asset to my company. And that's what they don't think about, is that as an asset. And so with that, what does that mean? What do we do if we take it from something that's warm and fuzzy and make it something that's warm and fuzzy and cold and hard facts that we can show on your balance sheet and show on your contracts? And that's what people, they think about what makes them special all the time. They just forget to then translate that into something that other people can say, oh, and that means money.
Yeah. Or they always think too, like, is it that important and how should I protect it? Because they just don't want to think about the legal jargon of things.
Right. It can get really scary, especially if you start looking on like different government websites. They use legalese up the wazoo, right? And it can get it can make our eyes cross when we're looking at some of this stuff. We have some new attorneys here, and there's like, wait, what does that mean again? I'm like, and that's after they've taken law school, right? And are working here. And so if it's making them, I said, exactly, right? If that's making you go, wait, what? Just think what that's doing to our, business clients. So how do we translate that legalese into something that they understand and feel and recognize as their own? So that's something that we focus a lot on, is making sure that we translate and we don't use that jargon for our clients, because that doesn't help anyone. Nobody needs to listen to us use big words and prove how smart we are. We prove that we're smart by helping you and you realizing what it means.
I say it, what's maybe one thing that you would suggest to business owners that when it comes to trademark and how important it can really be for their business and how there could be some legal complications if you don't protect yourself?
Sure. So the first thing is every business, every single one of them has a trademark, and multiple of them. Because I hear this a lot from business. Oh, I don't really have one. Lies, you do. And what is it? So what is a trademark? It's the stuff that helps your customers keep finding you, or even more importantly, refer you to others. Right? So what are you saying on the phone, or when you go to a Dames event, you're like, oh my gosh, you should totally talk to my connection, my person who does this stuff. What do you say for like Ogden, Glazer, and Schaefer? They might remember that. It might, but usually they say, oh, it's OGS law. It's this green, they have this green dot. Those are the trademarks that really connect. And so that's what, the Dames, that name, or different colors or different phrases, or there's even smells. The smell of like Abercrombie and Fitch, and
True.
they have a trademark smell. It's same with Verizon. And so it's this thing where like you just connect it, and you can say, oh, I know this is the store I went into last time. So first thing to know is you have trademarks. Don't tell me you don't, because you do. And then second, the first thing you can do is start putting a TM on things. That means I think this is my trademark and I'm going to try to protect it. I think it's mine. A lot of times you see a circle R, that means that you have registered it with the federal US Patent and Trademark Office. A lot of people get really hesitant about doing that. They're like, oh, but I don't know. Because again, they're still in that I don't have it. And so everybody's homework is to take the next 24 hours and look at all of the different places that you start seeing that TM on things, and you'll realize it's out there. You just haven't been noticing. And so then take that and do it themselves.
So I guess that's one thing that I didn't realize you could just put TM on things.
Right. And so, if it's your mark, if you think this is what I'm using and this is how clients are finding me, put a TM on it. You don't have to do anything other than use it.
Okay. I was saying, how long does the process go to get the R? Like, how long of a process does that usually take?
Sure. Well, longer lately. The trademark office has been people are catching on that trademarks are important. So they've been inundated, and COVID impacted them all. So if I put a trademark application in today and there are 0 problems with it, it's going to take over a year for it to register. In fact, if I put the application in today, someone at the trademark office isn't even going to look at it, not even look at the application for at least 6 to 8 months. So this is something that we got to look ahead. We got to think ahead, because if you come to me now and want a Circle R by December, I'm going to tell you good luck. No. But it also means that you don't have to rush, right? You can think about what makes sense. Does this fit into our budget? What of these things is important, and how do we move forward? Because we can really drive strategy with it. One of the questions I always ask clients are, what's your goal? So then we can make things, help you reach that goal, because we know it's going to take a year anyway.
Yeah. So what is the one thing of like why it would be so important to go through that process? Like, why do some people decide to take that year-long process for their business instead of just doing the TM?
Yeah, great question. And there can be an offense and a defense reason. So one thing that when you do just the TM, that shows that you're using that mark, but it's really only where your customers are. So let's pretend so there's a coffee shop in Platteville called Badger Brothers. I love their stuff. They have great people. Badger Brothers coffee, though, people don't really know it outside of Platteville, though they're going to be opening up a location in Mount Horeb. So now maybe they're expanding to Mount Horeb, but does that mean anybody in Milwaukee knows them? Probably not. And certainly not in Phoenix, Arizona, right? So what if their plan isn't to have just 2 locations? What if their plan is to become the next Starbucks? So if they do just the TM, then really they're only protected in Platteville, Mount Horeb, and where people, kind of the halo around those. If they have plans, they might want to do a federal mark to say, okay, if my next location is in Chicago or the Twin Cities or Des Moines, I know that it's clear because the Circle R, the federal registration, means that it's protected in all 50 states.
Okay.
Right. So it's kind of clearing their way. Other things that a lot of times are breweries will do is they may not have big expansion plans, but they know others do. And they don't want to be stopped from using their mark. So they may not be having expansion plans, but they don't know that others do. So they want to know that they can use this, and someone who starts it somewhere else can't come in and say, you know what, you can't use that mark anymore. That's mine. They're like, no, mine everywhere. And so both of those things can be really helpful. Whether you're trying to be on the offense and clear it up and maybe even go after others, or just kind of protect your turf in case someone else decides to get burn their bonnet.
Yeah. Well, and I would say, I'm guessing too, of like why it's so important to go to you is because people are just putting TM on stuff, but it's like, you got to really make sure someone else didn't really create that piece also, or going by that same name. And in the end, you could be causing more, like, I don't know, heightened your business. Like that could be bad if you all of a sudden trademark something when really something's registered and you're using this name.
Right. So if you are coming up with a new product, whether that's a service or a good, and you're thinking of this name, but we do screens to make sure that we already know what's out there. So you don't start. So we actually had a client that had this, they were starting a business, started it, had come up with their name, hadn't talked to us at all, printed out signs, all of the things. And I think they were a month in and they got a cease and desist letter. And from someone that I knew was litigious and knew would, push it. And that's when they came to us, is now that they got the cease and desist. And I had to say, hey, this is a problem. I just dealt with those people on another case, oddly. You can fight it, or you can spend the same amount of money that you would fight it in a rebrand. And it was a really hard thing. And they're like, oh, why didn't we talk to you 2 months ago? I'm like, I don't know. I wish you had. We would have been able to address this. And you would have had to pay for the branding once instead of twice.
And two, I feel like so many people put that energy and like, they're just set on those names or how it's going to be. And then it's like, if you would have just came to me sooner, we could have like helped those dreams evolve and change, where you're just not so set on this certain specific wording.
Right. Well, we would have helped your overall dream achieve, right? Your successful business, not this name. Because if you talk to anyone, it's not the name that's important. They want the business, right? You want your kid to grow up to be healthy and strong and independent and all of those things. You don't care that, well, if it hadn't been named Tommy, the boy named Sue, right? Maybe not the best approach to go with. I'm going to name the kid boy Sue, so that way he gets in lots of fights. How about we just name him something else so he doesn't have to fight?
Yeah. So what other things are you seeing with clients where it's like, I wish I would have came to you sooner? What's maybe some things that some of our business owners or even just leaders should be thinking about for their clients also?
Sure. One of the things to kind of think about is start thinking about what you want to do when you don't want to do your business anymore, long before you're ready to sell. Start thinking about, what is this going to be? Because it's really hard for us to get a business ready to be sold when you're like done, right? Like I said, it takes a year to do a federal trademark registration, right? And so one of the things we want to do when we're looking at what is next for that business is we want to build all of the assets so you make as much money as you can if you're selling it, or making it as easy if you're giving it to your kids or your owner, your employees, make it as easy for them to continue to build on the success instead of having to go back. And so if we can start thinking about that long in advance, then we can make it so you get your top dollar and the owner the best position. But we need time. We need to know that preferably years in advance, so we can start. Doesn't mean that we have to rush headlong, but like for our business, people have asked, oh, when did you start succession planning? And the answer was the day we started. The day we started thinking about, like, what do we need to do to make sure that this can be moved on to the next people? And how do we start building those leaders? How do we start building our assets? How do we start doing everything to make that work?
Yeah. Well, I would say it's kind of like, I mean, with my trust and estate world of things, it's those important documents that we should all have in place
Yep.
when it comes to even like, because you never know when you could pass away. But it's just kind of thinking of it in that mindset is that it's the same thing for your business. You never
Right.
know what could happen in the future, and you should always have a plan, which at times is hard for people to think so
It's
far ahead
super
like
hard.
that.
But another thing that can be really helpful is even in the setup of businesses, having the awkward conversations now when everybody's getting along and when everything looks good makes it so much easier. Yeah, the conversation will never be unawkward, right? Never.
Mhm.
So have it at the beginning when everybody's good and everything's stable, because that's going to be way less awkward, way less angry than if you wait until things go poorly. So this happens a lot with operating agreements when you have like 2 or 3 people or more owning the same thing. What do you want to do when someone wants to leave? What do you want to do when you want to kick somebody out? What do you want to do when you want to add somebody? Have all those discussions now. So when it happens, it's actually makes it less bad then. And it makes it less stressful because you've already had these conversations. You already know what you want to do. And so it avoids a lot of problems. And if you do have problems, they're less firecrackers, right? Because you've already had at least some of that awkward conversation early on.
Yeah. Well, then you can see if the business partners are on the same page of things, or maybe
Right.
you realize, wow, we are drastically off in different thinking.
Yep.
So coming to agreement and getting on the same page is really
Yep.
helpful.
And it's really easy to think everyone's on the same page until you actually try to put it down in writing. And then you start finding, oh, maybe we don't. Maybe we're thinking about this in 2 different ways. And don't you want to know that now?
Yeah.
Right? Don't you want to know that about now so you can address it? Because maybe they have a better idea than you. Or maybe you have a better idea than them and you need to get them like back on the right path.
Perfect. So I guess I want to switch gears a little, Erin.
Yeah.
So since some of our dames are not from around this area,
Yeah.
how can they utilize you as a resource or as their attorney?
Sure.
You know,
So if we're talking
about
about
that.
trademarks, copyrights, things like that, doesn't matter where you are, we can help people nationwide, which is really cool because I have really good excuses to go to like Seattle and Asheville and even Vegas because I'm visiting clients.
Yeah.
But also with Zoom and all of that, it makes it a lot easier. If you're talking about business, so doing like the operating group contracts and things like that, then we have to be licensed in the state. So we're licensed currently in Wisconsin, Illinois, and Ohio, though our associate Sam is studying for the bar in Minnesota right now. So he's starting to, if you see Sam, if you're around and you see Sam, just pat him on the shoulder and say he'll be okay. So he's getting a little anxious.
Like that.
So then soon to be Minnesota, then we can help with all of that stuff. But really, I love being a resource. I use the hashtag trademark nerd all the time on social media. So if you want to talk about trademarks and you want to get me all riled up and using my hands and all of that, then let me know. I would love to talk to anybody and everybody about it because it's fun.
Awesome. I would say, do you have any events or things that people should sign up for to follow or learn more from you?
Yeah, so we have a blog on our website that we say that the entries are latte length. So you should be able to order your latte at, Badger Brothers, read our post, and by the time they call your name, you should be done with our post and go off with your latte. So that's at ogs.law/interact.
Okay.
And so that is got a wealth of information. So that's probably the number one thing. Otherwise, if people want to have questions about that, what makes contracts work, the timeline, things like that, we have all sorts of infographics and things like that. Some of them are on the website, but sometimes, when you're like digging, it can be hard. Just hit me up with an email, message on social media, whatever it is, and we can make sure we give you all the things we have.
Okay. I was saying, so what's your website if you know it off the top of your head? Please?
Yeah, it's a tricky one. It's www.ogs, so that's OG is in golf, S is in Sam, .law. So there's no .com, none of that, OGS.law.
Perfect. Well, I would say dames, other dames, or people that aren't even dames yet, I would say reach out to Erin. She should be in your circle no matter what. She's my go-to for businesses and legal, but also to just a great face. She's always happy. She's smiley. The one thing I loved that she was handing out was drink tokens at our event. So talk about that, Erin, because I think a lot of people would love that.
Yeah, so we represent a lot of breweries and wineries and things like that. So we started real, and plus actually my family used to own a tavern. I don't know if anyone people know that. And so you always would have those, drinks on us, right? And so we realized like we love to talk about this stuff. We love to take people and we love to support our clients. So one of our kind of calling cards is we have these little drink tokens for us, and that you take those and you call us up and we will take you out to drink and talk about legal stuff and trademark stuff and all of the things while having a glass of something fabulous. And that includes not just alcohol, but we also will happily take you out for coffee or even a walk to the dog park. Lola is a big fan, and actually on Friday I had someone cash in on one of those at Culver's, so we had an ice cream date.
Oh, well, I love that idea, and I love it too because you could cash in and have a virtual coffee too there, and she's so lovely. Everybody needs to have her in her circle. So I appreciate you, and I love the idea, and I couldn't have done the event without you and your support and just always pushing me forward. So I really appreciate you so much. So thank you for being our first sponsor. Well, thank you so much. Feel free to reach out to Erin, reach out to me if you have any questions. But thanks so much again, Erin.
It was my absolute honor, and I will support you any way I can, Dawn.
Oh, you're so sweet. All right. Well, thank you so much. Bye, everyone.